something gentle, something real. The things that don't arrive loudly. Not all connections arrive with certainty. Some don't knock. Some don't announce themselves. Some slip quietly into your life and sit there, patient, waiting for you to notice. First you think it's nothing special. Just comfort. Just familiarity. Just ease. And then one day, you realize your life has rearranged itself around that presence, without asking permission. That's how this began. Not with fireworks, but with warmth. Before there was meaning. Before anything mattered, there were ordinary moments. Shared spaces. Casual conversations. Passing glances that didn't linger long enough to be suspicious. There was no intention to connect deeply. No desire to complicate things. They were simply coexisting. And sometimes that's the most honest place to start, when neither person is trying to turn a moment into a story. The first shift you can't explain. There's always a moment when something changes. Not dramatically but subtly. Conversation lasts longer than expected. A goodbye feels slightly heavier. A smile stays with you longer than it should. Nothing obvious happens. But something inside you pauses. You begin to notice. Not because you want to, but because your body recognizes something your mind hasn't caught up to yet. Comfort that doesn't ask questions. They began to feel comfortable around each other in a way that didn't require explanation. No need to perform. No need to fill silence. No need to apologize for moods. They could arrive tired, quiet, distracted, and still be accepted exactly as they were. That kind of comfort is rare, because it doesn't ask you to become better before you're allowed to rest. The way care showed itself quietly. Care didn't announce itself. It appeared in timing, in noticing, in remembering things the other had forgotten they'd said. A glass of water placed nearby. A jacket offered without comment. A gentle check-in that didn't demand an answer. Nothing grand. Nothing dramatic. Just consistency. And consistency over time becomes love whether you name it or not. Silence as a shared language. They learned how to sit in silence together. Not the tense kind. Not the awkward kind. The peaceful kind. The kind where thoughts can wander freely. Where breathing synchronizes. Where presence alone feels grounding. Silence became something they shared. Not something they avoided. The safety of being imperfect. They didn't expect perfection from each other. Mistakes were allowed. Bad days were accepted. Emotions didn't need to be justified. They could be messy, uncertain, human. And instead of creating distance, it created trust. Because being accepted in your imperfect state is far more powerful than being admired at your best. When attention became instinctive, without realizing it, they began to notice each other instinctively. A shift in tone, change in posture, a moment of withdrawal. They didn't need words to recognize it. And when one needed space, the other respected it. When one needed closeness, it was offered freely. That kind of awareness doesn't come from obligation. Comes from care. The moment it began to feel like home. Home isn't about walls or roofs. It's about how your nervous system responds. It's about the way your body relaxes when someone enters the room. The way your thoughts slow down. The way you don't feel the need to explain yourself. Being together felt like returning to yourself. Not because everything was easy, but because nothing had to be hidden. When the world felt too loud, life didn't pause for them. There were expectations, pressures, noise. But together they became quieter. Not disconnected, grounded. In the middle of chaos, they were each other's calm. A reminder to breathe. A reminder that not everything required immediate reaction. They didn't fix the world. They softened it. The choice that happened daily. There was no single moment where everything was decided. Choice came in small forms. Choosing patience instead of frustration. Choosing listening instead of defensiveness. Choosing to stay present instead of pulling away. Day after day. Moment after moment. And slowly choice became habit. Habit became foundation. Growing without leaving each other behind. They changed as all people do. They learned new things. faced new fears, became versions of themselves they hadn't anticipated. But growth didn't create distance. They grew side by side, different speeds, in different ways, and neither felt left behind. The quiet confidence of trust. Trust wasn't built on promises. It was built on reliability, on knowing someone would show up, on knowing silence wouldn't be punished, on knowing vulnerability wouldn't be used as leverage. Trust became something they rested in, not something they worried about losing. When being seen felt safe, they saw each other fully. The strengths, the flaws, the fears that weren't spoken aloud, and still chose closeness. That kind of seeing doesn't diminish you, strengthens you, because it tells you that you are worthy, not after change but now. Wyatt never needed a name. What they shared didn't need to be defined. It didn't rely on labels to feel valid. It didn't need explanation to exist. It was felt. It was lived. It was real. Sometimes the most meaningful connections resist being named, because they are too honest to be simplified. The strength of gentleness. Gentleness is often mistaken for weakness. But this was strength. The strength to be patient. The strength to be kind without expectation. The strength to stay soft in a world that encourages hardness. What they shared endured, not because it was loud but because it was steady. Epilogue. Something gentle, something real. In the end, it wasn't about moments that could be captured. It was about how it felt to exist together. How peace replaced tension. How understanding replaced fear. Something gentle. Something real. The kind of connection that doesn't fade when attention shifts. The kind that doesn't need to be proven. The kind that simply remains. And that, quietly, patiently, becomes everything.